against you by Tara Reade. So the former Senate aide accuses you of sexual assault. And please, to our viewers, please excuse the graphic nature of this, but I want to make sure that there is no question as to what we're talking about. She says in 1993, Mr. Vice President, that you pinned her against the wall and reached under her clothing and penetrated her with your fingers. Would you please go on the record with the American people? Did you sexually assault Tara Reade?
No, it is not true. I'm saying unequivocally, it never happened. And it didn't. It never happened.
Do you remember her? Do you remember any types of complaints that she might have made?
I don't remember any type of complaint she may have made. It was 27 years ago, and I don't remember, nor does anyone else that I'm aware of. And the fact is that I don't remember. I don't remember any complaint ever having been made.
Have you, or your campaign, have you reached out to her?
No, I have not reached out to her. It was 27 years ago. This never happened. And when she first made the claim, we made it clear that it never happened. And that's as simple as that.
In the past 30 minutes or so, you released a statement on Medium, and among other things, you write this: there's only one place a complaint of this kind could be, the National Archives. I am requesting that the Secretary of State the Senate ask the archives to identify any record of the complaint she alleges she filed. If there was any such complaint, the record will be there. Are you preparing us for a complaint that might be revealed in some way? Are you confident there is nothing?
I'm confident there's nothing. No one ever brought it to the attention of me 27 years ago. This is any assertion at all. No one that I'm aware of in my campaign, my Senate office at the time, is aware of any such request and or any such complaint. And so I'm not worried about it at all. If there is a complaint, that's where it would be. That's where it would be filed. And if it's there, put it out, but I've never seen it. No one has that I'm aware of.
The New York Times has investigated this exhaustively. They didn't find any of your former staff members were able to corroborate the details of this allegation. She did file a police report a few weeks ago with the D.C. police. But since you want to set the record straight, why limit this only to Tara Reade? Why not release any complaints that had been made against you during your Senate career?
I'm prepared to do that. The best of my knowledge, there's been no complaints made against me in terms of my Senate career, in terms of my office and anything that's been run. Look, this is an open book. There's nothing for me to hide. Nothing at all.
You were unequivocal, Mr. Vice President, back in 2018 during the Kavanaugh controversy and hearings. And you said that women should be believed. You said this: for a woman to come forward in the glaring lights of focus nationally, you've got to start off with the presumption that at least the essence of what she is talking about is real. Whether or not she forgets the facts, whether or not it's been made worse or better over time. She's going to be going on national television on Sunday. Tara Reade is coming forward in the glaring lights. To use your words, should we not start off with the presumption that the essence of what she's talking about is real? She says you sexually assaulted her.
Look, from the very beginning, I've said believing women means taking the woman's claims seriously. When she steps forward and then vet it, look into it. That's true in this case as well. Women have a right to be heard, and the press should rigorously investigate claims they make. I'll always uphold that principle. But in the end, in every case, the truth is what matters. And in this case, the truth is the claims are false.
Is it possible these claims are held in an NDA? Do you have any NDAs that have been signed by women who were employed by you?
There's no NDA signed, and no one's ever signed. I've never asked anybody to sign an NDA. There are no NDAs, period, in my case. None.
Your Senate documents at the University of Delaware were supposed to go public, and then they were resealed. The access was changed. I know that you're saying any HR complaints could be in the National Archives, but why not reveal your Senate documents that are being held in Delaware? I know there's 1,800 plus boxes, but if she believes and she alleges that the complaints may be hidden there, why not strive for complete transparency? Why was the access to those documents sealed up when they were supposed to be revealed?
Well, they weren't supposed to be revealed. I gave them the university. The university said it's going to take them time to go through all the boxes. They said it wouldn't be, and that wouldn't be before 2020 that occurred, or 2021. I can't remember the year they said. But look, a record like this can only be one place. It would not be at the University of Delaware. My archives do not contain personal files. My archives contain document, and when I say personnel files. They don't contain any personnel files. They're public records. My speeches, my papers, my position papers. And if that document existed, it would be stored in the National Archives, where documents from the office she claims to have filed her complaint with are stored. That's where they are stored. The Senate controls those archives. So I'm asking the Secretary of the Senate today to identify whether any such document exists. If it does, make it public.
Right, but there are claims and concerns, and reports in Business Insider, and she claims that possibly a complaint or some sort of record of this might be at the University of Delaware. So, for complete transparency, why not push for the release of any documents with Tara Reade's name on them, whether it's at the University of Delaware or the National Archives?
First of all, let's get this straight. There are no personnel documents. But you can't do that. You wouldn't, for example, if you worked with me or I worked for you and you had my income tax returns, you had my whatever. They're private documents. They're not for they don't get put out in the public. So they're not part of the public record that in fact is that any senator or vice president or president has in their documents. Look, there was one place that she could file the complaint. And that office at the time was, all those records from that office are in the archives, and they're controlled by the Senate. That's where personnel documents would be if they exist. That's where the complaint would be if it exists.
Given the fact that you have said in the past that if a woman goes under the lights and talks about something like this, we have to consider that the essence of this is real. Is the essence of what she is saying is real? Why do you think she's doing this?
I'm not going to question her motive. I'm not going to get into that at all. I don't know why she's saying this. I don't know why after 27 years all of a sudden this gets raised. I don't understand it. But I'm not going to go in and question her motive. I'm not going to attack her. She has a right to say whatever she wants to say, but I have a right to say, look at the facts, check it out, find out whether any of what she says is asserted or true. And based on the investigations that have taken place so far, to the best of my knowledge, by two major papers, they interviewed dozens of my staff members, not just senior staff, but staff members, I'm told, at least that's what they said, and nobody, this was not the atmosphere in my office at all. No one has ever said anything like this.
But Mr. Vice President, as it pertained to Dr. Ford, everyone wanted, high-level Democrats said she should be believed, that they believed it happened. You said if someone like Dr. Ford were to come out, the essence of what she is saying has to be believed, has to be real.
No.
Why?
No, what I said, it has to be.
Why is it real for Dr. Ford, but not for Tara Reade?
Because the facts are, look, I'm not suggesting she had no right to come forward. And I'm not saying any woman, they should come forward. They should be heard. And then it should be investigated. It should be investigated. And if there's anything that is consistent with what's being said, and she makes the case, or the case is made, then it should be believed. But ultimately, the truth matters. The truth matters. It's period. I fought my entire life to change the whole notion of the law and the culture around sexual assault. and I fought to strengthen and protect the process for survivors. I believe that we've come a long way, and we have a long way to go in this system before we, in fact, are in a position that there's a fair and unbiased view. But at the end of the day, it has to be looked at. These claims are not true. There's no cooperation. I mean, they're not true.
Mr. Vice President,
I don't know what else I can say to you.
Well, I'm going to try and ask many different ways. Stacey Abrams said during the Kavanaugh hearings, I believe women. I believe survivors of assault should be supported and their voices heard. Kirsten Gillibrand tweeted, do we believe women? Do we give them the opportunity to tell their story? We must be a country that says yes every time. They now both support you. Nancy Pelosi falls into this category too, as well as many other leaders in the Democratic Party. Are women to be believed? Are women to be believed unless it pertains to you?
Look, women are to be believed given the benefit of the doubt. If they come forward and say something that they said happened to them, they should start off with the presumption they're telling the truth. Then you have to look at the circumstances and the facts. And the facts in this case do not exist. They never happened. And there's so many inconsistencies in what has been said in this case. So yes, look at the facts. And I assure you, it did not happen. Period. Period.
But why is it different now? Do you regret what you said during the Kavanaugh hearings?
What I said during the Kavanaugh hearings was that she had a right to be heard. And the fact that she came forward, the presumption would be she's telling the truth unless it's proved she wasn't telling the truth. Or not proved, unless it's clear from the facts surrounding it, it's not the truth.
As we
look, this is a very... I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
Please. No, that's all.
As we await for the records from the National Archives, are you absolutely certain? Are you absolutely positive there is no record of any complaint by Tara Reade against you?
I am absolutely positive that no one that I'm aware of ever has been made aware of any complaint, a formal complaint made by, or a complaint by Tara Reade against me at the time this allegedly happened 27 years ago, or until I announced for I guess it was in April or May of this year. I know of no one who's aware that any complaint was made.
I've got two more questions. The first...
Okay, please.
Go ahead. The first is about your University of Delaware records. Do you agree with the reporting that those records were supposed to be revealed to the public and then they were resealed for a longer period of time until after you leave, quote, public life? And if you agree with that, if that's what happened, why did that happen?
Because, look, the fact is that there's a lot of things of speeches I've made, positions I've taken, interviews that I did overseas with people, all of those things relating to my job. And the idea that they would all be made public, in the fact while I was running for public office, they could be really taken out of context. The papers are position papers. They are documents that existed and that...
Silence after weeks of mounting pressure to deny allegations put forward by Tara Reade, a former Biden staffer, who says he sexually assaulted her in 1993. In a statement Friday morning, Biden said, quote, I want to address allegations by a former staffer that I engaged in misconduct 27 years ago. They aren't true. This never happened, he said. This is Biden speaking on MSNBC just before we went to broadcast.
Would you please go on the record with the American people? Did you sexually assault Tara Reade?
No, it is not true. I'm saying unequivocally, it never happened. And it didn't. It never happened.
Do you remember her? Do you remember any types of complaints that she might have made?
I don't remember any type of complaint she may have made. It was 27 years ago, and I don't remember, nor does anyone else that I'm aware of. And the fact is that I don't remember. I don't remember any complaint ever having been made. That's as simple as that.
Joe Biden was being questioned by Morning Joe's Mika Brzezinski about his senatorial records at the University of Delaware, which are sealed to the public, and his comments during the Brett Kavanaugh Supreme Court hearings, in which he said, for a woman to come forward in the glaring lights of focus nationally, you've got to start off with the presumption that at least the essence of what she's talking about is real, unquote. Joe Biden's denial comes as two more people have come forward this week to corroborate the account of Tara Reade. Business Insider reported earlier this week that Reade's former neighbor said the pair discussed the assault in detail in the mid-1990s, and that Tara Reade described then-Senator Biden pushing her up against a wall and digitally penetrating her. A former colleague who also knew Reade in the mid-90s said she'd spoken of being sexually harassed by her former boss in Washington, D.C. Tara Reade first came forward with her allegations in March. She recounted the incident on Democracy Now! A warning, her description is graphic.
I was approached by my supervisor. She handed me a gym bag and said, hurry, Joe wants this, so get it to him. He's meet you down towards the Capitol. And I went down the stairs, and I don't remember exactly where I was because there's connections between the Russell building and all of that and the corridors. But we were in a semi-private location. It wasn't a room. It wasn't the Russell office building. It was, his office. It was down in the corridors. And I handed him the gym bag, and then it was one, as I described, fluid moment. He was talking to me, and he said some things that I don't recall. And I was up against the wall, and I remember the coldness of the wall, and I remember his hands underneath my blouse and underneath my skirt, and his fingers penetrating me as he was trying to kiss me, and I was pulling away. And he pulled back, and he said, "Come on, man, I heard you liked me." But he was angry. It was like a tight voice. And he tended to smile when he was angry. And he isn't like the Uncle Joe like everybody talks about now. He was younger. He was my dad's age at that time and very strong. And he looked insulted and angry. And I remember feeling like I had done something wrong when he said that statement. And then I was standing there when he said, he was still near me. He said, pointed his finger and said, "You're nothing to me. You're nothing." And he walked away. And I don't remember exactly where I went after. I think I went to the restroom to clean up, but I don't remember precisely. The next memory I have is sitting on the cold stairs in the Russell building back stairs where the big windows are. And I remember just my whole body shaking. And I remember knowing that I had made him angry and that my career was probably over. Sitting on those stairs, the reality hit me. The next thing I remember was that night and talking to my mom, and she was like, "You need to file a police report. It's a sexual assault." And I didn't think of it as sexual assault, and I didn't really understand. And I was trying to just get over the shock of it because I looked up to him. He was supposed to be a champion of women. And I was so thrilled to be at that office and so honored. And it shattered my life and changed the trajectory of my whole career in life. And I lost my job after I complained, and I was fired.
That's gained renewed attention last weekend when archival video emerged of Reade's mother anonymously calling into Larry King's show on CNN in 1993 and making a reference to what happened to her daughter, Tara.
Hello. I'm wondering what a staffer would do besides go to the press in Washington. My daughter has just left there after working for a prominent senator and could not get through with her problems at all. And the only thing she could have done was go to the press, and she chose not to do it out of respect for him.
Or she had a story to tell, but out of respect for the person she worked for, she didn't tell it.
That's true.
Tara Reade has confirmed the voice of the caller was her mother, who died in 2016. Joe Biden's campaign has denied Reade's sexual assault claim, calling her allegation untrue. All this comes as Joe Biden has picked up several high-profile endorsements this week, including House Speaker Nancy Pelosi and Congressmember Pramila Jayapal, who co-chairs the Congressional Progressive Caucus.
What I'll say is that when I started reporting on this, I go at every story like this with extreme skepticism. I never actually wanted to report on this story. It was one of the survivors in the Weinstein, story that I've worked with, Sarah and Massey, came to me and said, "Look, can you take a look at this?" And I said, "Well, look, we might not like what we find, but if everybody's okay with that, I'll go down this road." And so, the more that I've gone down the road reporting it, the more corroborating voices I've found. And when when she filed a police report, and then when I found Linda, Linda is someone that struck me as entirely credible. She's like, "Look, I'm a lifelong Democrat. I'm voting for Biden regardless, and this happened. So I need to, in good faith, come forward and say that." So, will we ever know that there's 100% truth that this happened or did not happen? I don't think so. But, this needs to be continued to be reported out. I know this morning Joe Biden said he's calling on the National Archives to release his papers. So we spoke to the National Archives and said, look, there is some question about Tara Reade filing a complaint outside of this office, outside of the Biden office. If you had that, would that live there? And they told us that no, they have no records from I believe it's called the Fair Employment Practices Office. And so that leads us to believe that there might be some of those papers within the University of Delaware and his senatorial papers, which is why we're calling on them to open them. From speaking to the National Archives, they say no, they would not have that report, that it would not be within the National Archives.
Let's bring in Linda Lacoste, the former neighbor of Tara Reade, who's accused Democratic presidential candidate Joe Biden of sexual assault. Tara Reade accused him in 1993. We just played the clip of Tara describing what happened. Linda Lacoste came forward just recently in the Business Insider piece and has corroborated Tara Reade's account. Linda, this is your first time speaking on television about this. Can you tell us what happened in the mid-1990s? How did you know Tara? And then tell us what she told you and why you're coming forward today.
Well, Tara was my next-door neighbor. I moved into the apartment right next to her, and we became close at that time. And she told me about it when we were having a conversation. And so, as Rich put forth in the article in the Business Insider, I was having a moment I was outside, and I had just received some papers, and I was upset about them, and she came over, and we were talking about violence, because I had experienced violence myself, and she started telling me about Joe Biden and what he had done. And basically she told me that he put her up against a wall, and he put his hand up her skirt, and he put his fingers inside her. And she was very distraught, and she was very upset, and she was crying. And that's how that conversation happened. We were just sitting on my front stoop in front of my apartment.
And what year was this that you had that conversation?
Well, it was either 1994 or very early, 1995 or early 1996.
And Linda, if you could talk about your response at the time. Did she tell you it was Senator Biden who she had worked for?
She did. She did tell me that. And, you know, I really didn't pay that much attention at the time. I didn't really care much about politics. I didn't. I knew she worked for him. I didn't know really who he was much. I didn't put that much importance on it. So, oops.
So,
But
can you talk about why you've decided to come forward now? I understand you're a Biden supporter, is that right?
that's correct. I'm a strong, lifelong Democrat, and I am a Biden supporter. And, you know, I didn't know about all the stuff that was going on in the news. She told me about it last month. She called me, and she told me that she had decided to come forward with it, and I said, and she told me about the allegations, and I said, oh yes, I remember that. So then we talked again a little over a week ago, and I volunteered to come forward. And again, you know, I worked so much, I hadn't really had time to pay as much attention as I could have. But I did volunteer to come forward. And the reason I volunteered to come forward is just I feel that the truth needs to be told, and her truth needs to be told. I believed her back then when she told me, and I believe her now.
And just talk about how you mesh believing her now that she was sexually assaulted by her boss, by Senator Joe Biden. That's her allegation. If you believe her, why you support him?
It's a difficult thing. I've always supported him, and I just have to keep supporting him now. And it's a little bit harder now after this allegation. I'm a definite anti-Trumper. So I'm having a little bit of a hard time with it. So, but mostly it's an anti-Trump thing. And you know, I saw him on Morning Joe this morning, and he looks very believable too. But I'm hearing this today, and I heard Tara a long time ago telling me that. So I'm struggling with it, with the election now.
Well,
But I'm still gonna vote for him.
Let me bring back in Rich McHugh. Your thoughts on how the media has covered this story. I mean, ultimately, the New York Times did a piece, New York Magazine, Rebecca Traister did a piece. Of course, MSNBC is now interviewing Joe Biden today. You've had a lot of experience with NBC in trying to bring out the Harvey Weinstein story first on NBC with Ronan Farrow. But talk about the progression of this piece.
I think the media was afraid. I'll just say afraid because, you know, there are things in Tara's story. There are some inconsistencies. There's her writings about Russia and whatnot that give journalists, myself included, some pause in reporting this. But when you're at a network level, you weigh those things even more carefully when the allegations are against a presumptive Democratic nominee. That said, I'm a little surprised at the fact that the lack of coverage after more voices, corroborating voices, came forward, even after Linda came forward.
Talk about who else, Rich.
Well, so right now on the record is. So at the time, Tara said she told her mother, who was since deceased in 2016. So we can't hear from her, but we did just hear from her on Larry King. She didn't name Biden, but she did say things that make sense according to Tara's story. And Tara did tell us about this before it was unearthed, so we were looking for it. She said she told a friend at the time contemporaneously. I've spoken to that friend a lot and interviewed her, and her story lines up exactly. I find no inconsistencies with that story. Her brother, Colin Moulton, has gone on the record with me and Business Insider and others and confirmed parts of her story. He says he was a younger brother by 7 years, so he doesn't think he was told the full story because he was a younger brother, but he definitely remembers being told that Joe Biden had his hand up inside her clothes or up her clothes. Linda, who we're hearing from now, and Lorraine Sanchez, who also went on the record. She worked with Tara from 94 through 96 in Senator Jack O'Connell's office in California, and says by the time that Tara arrived there, she was complaining about having experienced sexual harassment at the hands of her former boss in D.C. I asked Tara, I said, did you experience sexual harassment from anybody else in D.C.? Do you have any other allegation? She said, no, I only worked I only experienced it in the Biden office at the hands of Joe Biden. So you have a number of voices right there that and there are other people too, by the way. I spoke with an intern who worked under Tara in the Biden office, and she says she doesn't remember Tara saying anything about sexual harassment or about sexual assault. But what she does confirm is that Tara was, all of a sudden in mid-April 1993, Tara was replaced, and she was no longer her supervisor, which she found odd.
I want to put President Trump on, who was questioned about whether he thought Joe Biden should respond to the allegations.
I don't know anything about it. I don't know exactly. I think he should respond. It could be false accusations. I know all about false accusations. I've been falsely charged numerous times.
So that was President Trump, who has himself been accused of rape and sexual assault repeatedly by dozens of women. Rich McHugh.
It's a complicated conversation, no doubt about it. This is both Trump and Biden now are credibly accused, and we're talking about this allegation right now because it's Joe Biden, but both need to be discussed.
And Linda Lacasse, do you feel strongly that Tara Reade should be believed?
Absolutely. Absolutely. I believe her 100%.
Well, I want to thank you both for being with us.